everybody, and welcome back to another episode of 123 CMMC. My name is Dana Mantilia, and I will be your host. And our guest today is Leah Shilabad. How are you, Leah?
I'm fabulous today.
Good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So they sometimes call me the IT Princess of Power because my name is Leah, and kind of try to rule the IT world over here, especially when we're doing stuff with CMMC. I own an MSP outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we serve mostly manufacturers throughout the area. We have been working with clients who need CMMC compliance since before CMMC, when they just needed to have NIST 800-171 compliance. I love the community of those who are involved with CMMC, whether it's providers or OSCs, because everybody is so concerned about securing our country, and the passion to secure our nation really aligns with the mission of our company.
That's great. I could not agree more. Okay, so today we're going to talk about documentation and CMMC 2.0, everybody's new big thing to talk about. So DIB suppliers may feel like the pressure is off, right? CMMC. Would you say we actually went backwards?
Oh my gosh. All right. So there were so many people with the announcement of CMMC 2.0 where it's, we only need self-attestation at level 1. And then, so the next level up, only some of them need to actually have real assessments. And you're like, I'm going to have to worry about it now. Well, no, right? So you still have to have an executive at the company self-attest, right? Sign that you are in compliance with all of the same stuff that was there before. And actually, we're going to talk about that in just a moment, about how it's kind of the same in a lot of ways. But that means that even though a third party isn't coming in there to check and see if you actually are doing all those things, you have to have absolute certainty, high level confidence that you really are doing those things, and sign your name there, like a contractual kind of thing, as an attestation. Because if you don't do that, well, first of all, you can't have your contracts if you don't do that. But then secondly, let's say you've done that and that really you aren't compliant, whether that is because you think you are, you really do think you are, and there's some parts that you don't understand and you said that you are, or that somebody else said that you are, but you're not. They're really pushing the False Claims Act and whistleblower clauses heavily right now. And I don't know about you, but personally, I'd rather have a third party come in here and say, yep, you're doing things right, and receive a certificate that I can waive, as opposed to thinking that I'm doing a good job and then, somebody telling on me and then having some big lawsuit. So some people thinking, we had, some suppliers that are like, I don't have to do anything now. You still do. And then we had, some security people who were thinking we went totally backwards on this. We didn't. We had to, the government decided that they wanted to shift gears. They wanted to go faster, Dana. They wanted to go faster. That's why they pulled this out. They pulled it so that now you have to be the one to sign your blood on that line. And now they're going to have the need for this happen in 9 to 24 months instead, which is a lot faster than 5 years.
Yep, that's for sure. All right, so CMMC 2.0, it sounds like we don't need heavy documentation requirements now. Is this true? It kind of ties into what you're saying.
Yeah, so the interesting things, I had the honor of taking one of the very first CCP courses that came out, and I was so excited because it's like a massive amount of information, and those of us that are really trying to do this work right, we want more information. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing. So I was in my glory for a whole 40 hours that week, and I actually was a little stressed. Documentation is my thing, like that is like documentation, systems, processes. That's speaking my love language, and understanding what the auditors, assessors were going to be looking for when they came in for this documentation. I was even a little like, wow, this is going to be heavy. So is the heaviness of the documentation, we need to make sure there's a signature line for the CEO on the IT security policies, for instance. Is that going to be necessary now? No, actually, that kind of thing will not be necessary. But written documentation still is necessary. It has already said and has said in NIST 100-171 that you need to have policies. The policies are written, Dana. Like they're not. It's not. Policy is not tribal knowledge, right? If you have to have an incident handling capability, right? So that means you need an incident response plan. And then if you have a response capability, then again, you have to have something written saying how you're going to do that. It can't just be like, our capability is that we can, respond. And there's so many. I think we went through it, and there's like, I think we identified at least 62 documents that you would need to have that are still written documents just to comply with 800-171. Like forget just having good documentation so that people do the same thing every time.
And I think this is going to tie into our next question, but I think this is good that requiring the documentation, okay, as a first step, or just kicking off the CMMC thing. And then maybe the next thing they'll do is they'll make it a little bit heavier, like with that requirement of the CEO's signature on things. And I think this is a good way to go about it, though. But you absolutely have to have documentation. How can you put anything like this in place without having it written down? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, like think about creating a new user, right? So like maybe an IT guy that's there all the time, he knows how to do it. It's in his head. But what exactly is he doing? What steps is he taking? If he leaves the company, then who's gonna know exactly how to do that after that? And then if an assessor comes in, or part of the ability to assure the least privilege is still there. So what is it when you create an account that you are doing to assure that this person only has access to what they're supposed to? That's just one small thing. So, right, IT operations in general requires that you have written documentation for the processes that people do every single day.
The new Department of Defense's cybersecurity program, CMMC, can be very confusing and overwhelming. A3 is a cloud-based collaborative environment for an organization seeking certification. A3 builds CMMC packages and has access to a marketplace of consultants, RPOs, and assessor C3PAOs. A3 creates a roadmap for each cybersecurity requirement and helps break things down step by step. Please visit cyberdataintelligence.com/A3.
And if you don't have, those processes actually written down, how do you even know what your people are doing? In a small department, in an MSP, in an MSSP, it doesn't matter. You need to have written documentation of your processes, period.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that, you touched on it with that one employee this happens in a lot of organizations, small and big, where that one employee that's been there forever probably does 10 times the amount of stuff that they really should, and everyone just relies on them taking care of it. So then, boop, that person's out of the equation. Now, how are we doing the same thing that person was doing? How do you even know what that person was doing? So
exactly.
Yeah, that's the important thing. All right. So if CMMC assessments are still on, will they be less expensive? And are there any ways to make them less expensive? I know this is a very important topic to a lot of people.
Yeah. So again, we learned all about the assessment process in the CCP class, and they told us that 85% of what you learned is still the same, but obviously the assessment process is going to have to change. So they've withdrawn that information, and they will be coming out with information about the assessment process sometime in the next couple of months once they figure all of that out. Will it be less expensive? Well, because there are pieces that are no longer going to be assessed, then yes, it's likely that it will be a little bit less expensive. Are there ways to assure that it's less expensive? Absolutely. Preparing properly for an assessment is huge, and a lot of that is having that evidence or your artifacts and that written documentation, like having clear IT security policies that are mapping directly to the NIST controls and the CMMC different domains. Be able to have that, to be able to have all of those standard operating procedures, to be able to have your IRP, your BCDR plan, to have a training and awareness plan that's clearly showing how you are over a period of time, making sure that everyone's getting the right training. Being able to have all the documentation together is going to be huge. and not just as a point in time, but that you are actually using it over time to show that this is not just something you compiled once, but that you're using the documentation um, to be alive in your organization.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that is really important is that you are considering upfront what the scope of your assessment is going to be. So a lot of that has to do with understanding how the CUI is flowing into your organization, how you are handling it internally when after it comes in, and then how it flows out. So to have a really good data flow diagram that might at first just be like, well, it comes in this way, it's handled this way, and then also to be able to have not a network diagram, but again, like more pictorially, all of the people who are touching SCI and FCI and CUI in the organization, and external people who are touching it too. So you have a really good idea about what the potential scope is, even before you go for an assessment, will really help you understand what you're going to get into.
And that visual aid is really going to be helpful, because anytime we can see something written down with a little map pointing to all these different people, that it helps us, gather all the information and scope around everything like that. But one thing I also wanted to say too about the expense is that the sooner you get started, that's going to help with the expense, because it's not like, you hurry up, we got to get this done in 6 months, so nothing else is getting done. Everybody's got to focus on this. If you start now, you can do a little bit at a time, even though you should be already doing most of this stuff. But make sure that you're doing everything. So.
Dana, like we support companies that don't even need CMMC compliance, and just from creating this documentation, these plans, this way of managing clients, like it has like raised the game for every single one of our clients. Like I love CMMC. It's really made what we do for everybody so much better. Mm-hmm. So I mean, like I'm a lover of this compliance. I can tell you that.
I am too, and I think it's all for one reason: to help better protect our country, our information, and that's the most important thing that everyone needs to remember. That's the end goal. It's not just difficult. Ooh, so anyway, well, thank you very, very much. Is there anything else you want to add at the end here before we go?
Gosh, if you are struggling at all with CMMC compliance with the 800-171, definitely link with me on LinkedIn. I put a lot of stuff out there. If you're not linked with Dana, you need to link with Dana. There's amazing influencers here. The community is strong. We help each other. So definitely take advantage of the other people out here who are all here for the same reasons.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much, Dana.
All right. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care until then. Bye-bye.